The wonderful 101 is an action game like no other, and with the release of the new Remastered edition, we have the opportunity for new players to join veteran Wonderful Ones in this charming, hilarious, lovingly crafted game that's absolutely jam-packed with gameplay and fun secrets for all kinds of players to enjoy. I will note that the game can be difficult and hard to adjust to, so if you're struggling to adapt, there's no shame in switching to easy or very easy mode. Even so, the continue system is incredibly forgiving, and it's important to keep in mind that even if the scoring system seems harsh, the important part is for you to learn how to play and enjoy improving over the course of the game. It's often said that you can consider your first run through the game as a tutorial run, and when you return on the same or higher difficulties again later, you'll be delighted to see your improvement. This video is to provide some helpful tips and guide new players embarking on their mission to protect the planet. Hopefully, the things I mention here will serve to make the entire experience of this incredible game a little smoother. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First off, we have Unite Guts. There's also an upgraded version called Unite Spikes. Please, I beg you, buy this skill immediately, along with Unite Spring. They are your defensive moves in a game that strongly emphasizes defense, since you're defending Earth and all. There is some confusion about what Guts can and can't block. The skill is designed to look like Jello for very good reason. I like to imagine, if I had a giant Jello, could it withstand this attack? Jello's not gonna help much against piercing, stabbing moves or lasers, meaning there are two types of attacks to watch out for. Sharp attacks, blades, bullets, swords, etc. And blunt attacks, which will just bounce right off. If you can successfully use Guts, your enemy will be temporarily stunned, letting you beat on them freely, making it an important offensive skill as well as defensive. One of the first hurdles in the game is parsing the screen, keeping track of not only yourself, but also enemies on the battlefield. Keep in mind that enemies do remain active off-screen. For projectile shooting enemies like these, listen for the unique sounds that precede their attacks, and use Guts at the right time to counter. There are a few exceptions for which attacks you can't block. Angry, red, whistling enemies like this are very angry, and their warnings are made to let you know that you can't block them. Fortunately, you can always use your spring to avoid attacks too. Just be careful not to spam either one endlessly, as it drains your energy with each unsuccessful use. So here's this giant enemy crab. He's pretty pointy, so his body slam is unblockable. There's also Vorkin's tombstone, which is much sturdier than your own, and unblockable with Guts. Similarly, the shockwave of Vorkin's hammer is unblockable, but the hammer itself can be blocked, so position yourself directly underneath it if you want to do that. Another point of confusion is against large bosses. Whoops! As you can see, I didn't block that successfully, even though it's a blunt attack. But as you can see, your Guts tries to resist it. So what's the issue? Right here, you can see that you have 50 members, so not a big enough Jello to resist. You're gonna need at least 51 members to repel his attacks. Fortunately, the game will drop more members in over time for you to reinforce your ranks if needed, and then you can defend freely against his attacks. Just watch out for his fake-outs. Your very first morph is Unite Hand. Good for punching things and one of your best methods to deal damage, even if its range is a little bit short. But it has another property that comes in handy. The skill description says it's able to be set ablaze by contact with flames. This means you can use it to defend yourself from fire, rendering you impervious to the enemy's flames. Once alit, you can deal more damage to enemies too. You can even use it to travel safely through environmental fires. Next up is Unite Sword. It has much longer reach than Unite Hand, in exchange for less damage, but it also has a special property. As you can see here, not only can it reflect laser attacks, but it can also be charged by lightning. These lasers with red warning lights around them are the only exception. This boss would probably be too easy otherwise. But yeah, use your sword, cut through things like jelly, reflect lasers, and eat lightning. It's all good. A common complaint I've heard often is the camera. In the core gameplay sections, it's very simple to handle though. You just hold R1 to zoom in, and L1 to zoom out. R1 to zoom in, L1 to zoom out. Just make sure you hold the button for a second. The game tends to start zoomed in at the beginning of missions, or after certain scenes, so make sure to zoom back out before you get into battles if you prefer that. Team attacks are another important tool. You can send your wonderful ones at enemies, stunning and holding said enemy down. The gun and its special move, the gun stinger, are also very good for applying wonderful ones on enemies. But another useful aspect of it is that when your wonderful ones are on the enemy, indicated by these glowing circles around it, you'll automatically fly over to them when attacking, in a sort of lock-on system. Use this to your advantage to maximize damage. The shape drawing method of choosing your weapon doesn't always click immediately, but remember, practice makes perfect. If you're having trouble, take a minute to practice drawing, ideally with a stick, and soon enough, you'll be able to reliably draw the shapes you need. Try not to focus on the shape you see on screen. At most, just worry about the color you see before hitting the morph button. Or you can be like me and just draw Unite Whip a bunch of times by accident. But remember, you can cancel your drawing at any time with no energy penalty by pressing the sprint button, or you can use L3, which won't cancel your current morph. Also note that you can hold L1 when drawing to draw faster, as well as equipping Speedliner later. As you play, you'll collect space peppers, carrots, and eggplants. If you're wondering what to do with these vegetables, just open your menu, tab over to the mixer, and you can craft a few different items. But I strongly recommend saving 30 of each so you can make the Wonder Card, letting you purchase one skill from the Wonder Mart for free. You've probably noticed that you can recruit civilians to bolster your ranks, but did you know that you can also recruit the enemy to join your team? Whenever you see a glowing Dogu like this, you can encircle them and add them to your ranks. To put them in this glowing purple state, you have a few options. You can surround them with your team, who will beat on the Dogu until you can recruit them. You can also use Unite Spikes, the upgraded version of Guts, to knock them out. Unite Mine, an add-on for Unite Spring, also puts the Dogu in a recruitable state. Recruit enemies to bolster your ranks when you need. You might have noticed that some enemies spawn with colored circles around them. In this case, white and blue. Simply defeat that enemy with a Unite morph to match that color, and the enemy will drop their weapon upon defeat. You can use this in combat, or to fulfill the enemy weapon held bonus at the end of missions for a little bit of extra cash. It won't affect your rank either way though. Also note that small child units are very slow when carrying weapons. Change to a bigger, bulkier leader if you're planning to carry something around, as they're much faster. This brings me to the subscreen. A holdover from the Wii U version, the subscreen has a lot of useful information on it. During missions, you can access it, which is the share button on my PS4 controller when playing on PC. The subscreen appears on the bottom right. From there, you can navigate with the arrows and select different primary leaders for your weapons. This will help to rank up other leaders quicker, which, as your team grows in rank overall, will increase your maximum health as well as unlock moves for their corresponding weapon. I've been told by many that the Gunstinger is also very useful for leveling leaders. Holding the up arrow pulls up a quick help menu where you can review various game mechanics. On the Operation Select screen, you can use the subscreen to change the difficulty of your game, as well as adjust the number of members you wish to bring with you. One of my least favorite parts of the game are spiked enemies. You really only have one option, which is the Unite Whip to pull off their protective armor. Slapping away at enemies will knock them off balance, letting you pull off a piece of armor. But in this game, bigger is often better. You can deal more damage and have more range when attacking, and in this case, a bigger whip will pull off many pieces of armor at once. That'll speed up the tedious process of removing their armor and let you get back to laying the smackdown on enemies. Let's just hope you never have to fight too many of these at once. The wonderful 101 is absolutely loaded with secrets. Draw circles around anything suspicious you see, or use your hammer to unearth hidden secrets and treasures in every part of the game. Seriously, there's stuff hidden everywhere, it's ridiculous. An important aspect of the game is experimentation. Just because the game suggests that you deal with enemies one way, that doesn't mean it's the only way to deal with them. You have a wide variety of tools and skills at your disposal, so don't be afraid to try out a new strategy. Try to look for and create new openings to let you combine your skills and take down enemies faster and with smoother combos. Once you can find your groove, the combat's very satisfying to pull off. Unless they're the spike dudes, or those occasional rare water blobs. But for the most part, it's great. Last, I'd like to cover a few useful skills and abilities that will help you in your quest for justice. Be sure to stop by the Wonder Mart between missions to access them, and toggle them on and off mid-battle using the menus to suit your preferences. You can purchase things using the O parts that you'll find throughout missions, or using the Wonder Card item mentioned earlier. I don't want to dictate the skills for you, so I'm just going to cover a few and let you purchase according to your own playstyle. Unite Guts and Spring are obvious ones, priced extremely low in the remaster, to ensure that people purchase them. Spikes is an upgrade that you can't go wrong with. The Unite Drill Spring is less useful. It's up to you if you want a little extra damage when dodging, at the risk of drilling onto an enemy and potentially breaking formation if said enemy is too tough. Dodge Mine is useful for recruiting enemies, but I get limited use out of it otherwise, so it's up to you if you want to devote a slot to it. But you can swap out custom blocks at any time, so it's not a huge concern. The Tombstone is a good attack that you can't go wrong with. It'll let you quickly slam down to the ground, striking enemies and clearing the area. If you've got the money, I recommend it. Speed Charge is a popular custom block, but it's not one that I personally use. It'll recharge your enemy faster, so I'd recommend it if you find yourself running out a lot. Unite Charge is a very useful slot, but you might not need it. By holding down the attack button, it'll let you automatically power up your current morph, assuming you have both the members and energy necessary. If you're good at drawing quickly, you may not need it, but it's a very convenient slot that many people like to use. Multi-Unite is a very important skill that will boost your offensive capabilities. It'll let some of your heroes perform a morph independently of you. By the time you have Unite Bomb, you should at least have Multi-Unite 1. Hero Time is an incredibly useful skill, the equivalent of Witch Time from Bayonetta. I recommend buying it as soon as it's available, as that extra time it gives you will give you a lot of breathing space to play. Ukemi and Hero Counter are two very strong skills, but not necessarily required for your first time through. I like to get Hero Counter when I can, as sometimes I'll counter things completely by accident. But Ukemi is extremely important for later, when you're replaying the game and trying to get pure platinum rankings, as the damage it nullifies isn't counted towards your damage taken score. Energy Converter lets you use extra energy you obtain through batteries or by striking enemies, and convert that into health and vice versa. It's helpful, but I prefer to combine it with the attack layer skill, which lets you damage enemies you hit with your liner. Not everyone is a fan of attack liner, but I think it's worth mentioning that combining these two skills against Vorkin renders you virtually invincible, as you can heal incredibly quickly by running through his troops. But whether or not you'll put up a good fight is another issue entirely. Oh yeah, Unite Rocket and Ball are fun, but not required for your first playthrough. I always enjoy seeing people work them into combos, but that's more something to worry about later. You might be able to find some interesting secrets with them though. And last, Unite Camp can be very useful as well, especially during bosses with downtime. When you're low on energy, it'll fill you up automatically, and it has the added bonus of stacking extra energy, which allows you to automatically use the biggest morph possible at all times until that buff runs out. Aside from the core action gameplay, which is a challenge on its own, I should give you a fair warning that the Wonderful 101 will test your gaming skills in many ways. Even if you're an action game veteran, this game will probably wreck you more than a few times. It's important to keep in mind that your ranking is not important. If you choose to go back and retry levels after beating the game, it's a wonderful feeling to see how much you've improved with your new score. And even aside from the core action gameplay, this game will test your gaming skills in several other genres too, which I will leave you to discover. I wish you the best of luck in your mission to protect Earth.
Is that like the official name? Are you kidding me?
This video has dragged on much longer than I intended it to, but let me know what you thought about it in the comments, as it's my first attempt at something like this. Hopefully, a few of these tips will come in handy during your own quest for justice. If you're still on the fence about the game, then I recommend buying it anyway, as supporting such passion-driven creative games will help push the industry in new and exciting ways. I guarantee you that the Wonderful 101 is a unique experience, and hopefully one that you will never forget. So get out there and have a wonderful time. Thanks for watching.